In 1976, I had a decision to make. I was a nun. I was Sister Maura in the Dominican convent back in New York. And it was time for me to decide to make final vows or not. And I had loved being a nun. I had been in the convent for 9 years. I taught high school biology, health education. I loved being in community with the sisters. It was really a good life. But there was something about making that final decision to stay in the convent for the rest of my life. I just knew it wasn't the right life for me for the rest of my life. I could not do it. So I made the decision to leave. I left New York, I moved to Washington, D.C. and started my life all over again. 27 years old. Everything was new and fresh. I knew a couple of people in town, but that was it. And I took a couple of new jobs along the way. Nothing quite as intriguing as being a nun. But we used to party a lot more and certainly had a good time. And it wasn't until 1978 when I got a chance to take a job with a group called the Highlander Center that was based in Tennessee that I felt like I was back on track. They're a group that to this day is an organizing, research, and education center. And I had heard all about them because I had worked as a community organizer, and I'd heard all about the work they had done in the civil rights movement, all the education work they had done to break down those laws that made it wrong for blacks and whites to congregate together. In fact, Rosa Parks, remember her? She went to a workshop with the Highlander people the weekend before she decided to sit in the front of that bus. I thought, I think I gotta know these people. So I got a chance to take a job where I would form a planning committee in the town of Kingsport, Tennessee, to plan a conference on health and pollution. So I got myself over to Highlander Center in Tennessee, and I read through all the research they had done on all the chemicals being used and made in this town. It was a very industrial town. They had a list of all the industries. They had a list of all the health problems that people were suffering from. And I thought this should be pretty straightforward. It looks like we'll pull together a conference. I had a list of contact names of who to talk to help us plan the conference. So I got into my Datsun B210 and I drove 2 hours north to Kingsport. It was a gorgeous fall day. I'll never forget, the air was that beautiful autumn air, crisp and clean. And the leaves on the trees, on the hills around me were that crisp, beautiful, vibrant red, orange, and yellow. And the whole time while I was driving up on that interstate, I said, yes, this is the real beginning of my new life. This is what I should be doing. Until I got to the turnoff for Kingsport, when I had to roll up the windows of my car because the air smelled so bad of chemicals. I couldn't breathe. It stuck in my throat. My eyes were tearing. And I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing anymore. I found my way to the house where I'd be staying with a woman named Connie. She was a teacher at the local college the next town over. And I asked her, does the air always smell like this? Yeah, she says, it does. I thought, okay, get ready. We're going to get that conference rolling soon. So I started making my phone calls, got together with a guy named Thomas Collins, so that he had expressed some interest in being on the planning committee. He welcomed me into his home, sat me down in the living room, and served me a glass of sweet iced tea. And I want to tell you that was the best iced tea I probably had ever had. And as we talked, he told me more about why he wanted to be on this planning committee. Maura, you know, you could tell already the air in Kingsport is bad. It's so bad, the kids are sick. My children are sick, and their children are sick. They can't breathe. They have that breathing problem. I don't know. Is it bronchitis? Is it asthma? The doctors don't know. We just know it's bad. So I'll be over there at Connie's house next Thursday for that planning committee meeting. It's the least I can do. I left there really optimistic. I had my first member of the planning committee. Connie had already said she'd come. She was bringing a friend, Mary. Next I met with my friend Betty. She was a new person in town, but she had moved back in after her kids and grandkids had settled in the area. And she said, Maura, I'm going to be at Connie's house next Thursday. You know why? You smell this air. It's ridiculous. Everyone's sick. I come back home and everyone's sick. And they say the doctors don't know what it is. Well, you can tell. Hello. It's this terrible pollution in town. We got ourselves every kind of chemical plant here, and they're just putting it out in the air like it's nothing. I'll be there Thursday night. I thought, here I am, this Bronx girl, ex-nun Bronx girl from New York, moving into Tennessee. Okay, let's just have ourselves a planning committee meeting on Thursday night. And we did. We gathered around Connie's dining room table. Thomas was there early. The rest of us came in and sat down, and I said, okay, let's get started. It looks like we all have some ideas of what we might need in this 2-day conference. We can plan it whenever we want. We've got time. We've got money. I can rent a place. We're going to have some keynote speakers. We have ourselves a grant. We can pay a stipend. Let's get started. So we went around the table, and everyone kind of spoke up and said, here's what I think should happen. Here's what I think we should talk about. When it came to Thomas, he said, I think it's important we have someone who talks about why does it snow in Kingsport in the summer? And I looked at him. Yeah, you haven't heard that, have you? It snows in the summer here. Except it's not real snow. It's this white dust that falls from the sky. And it doesn't melt as much as it takes the paint off our cars and our houses. It's not good. And I think breathing it's not good. So if we got ourselves a pollution expert who knows about dust, that might be good. Because I think the chemicals, and then maybe there's some dust or mixing up there in the sky, and when it falls, it's not good. So I wrote down, dust expert, thinking, okay, we'll just do it. I had never heard of snow in summer. It got really hot and muggy there in the summer, I knew. But we were on track, so we divided up all the tasks. But before we left that meeting, Betty said, point of order for the committee. I think we need ourselves a chairman for this committee, and I hereby nominate Thomas. All in favor, just say yes. We all said yes, and Thomas said, oh my, that is an honor. I would be honored to be the chairman of this committee. Let's get started. Okay, everyone has their homework, so you're back here at Connie bright and early next Thursday night. And we split up, and we all started doing our homework. Came back that following week. Things were good. We had all met with the groups we promised. I had already talked to the Ramada Inn. We had all our subjects. We had a couple of tentative people for our conference keynote speakers. So we kept meeting there around Connie's dining room table on Thursday nights. One of our next meetings, before we got started, Thomas, of course, was early. He was sitting there as we gathered up. We all sat down. He said, okay, I have a question for the committee. We looked at him. Has anyone noticed a change in their phone line? Maybe when you pick up your phone, there's a little crackling in the line or a little echo. We all nodded. I thought so. I think they're tapping our phones.